With hearing Securities and Exchange Commission, DG and your commissioners are all welcome for the continuation of hearings. Well, before we start, may I crave your indulgence to please introduce yourselves from DG down to the person on the
as I have indicated in the letter that I have written, we had a Nigerian Economic Management Team meeting yesterday, and as I also indicated during a session on Monday, we also had another meeting which was a retreat on the power sector, which are important for the capital markets. And usually the procedure is that I should, if I wasn't going to be able to attend, indicated in writing to the office of the President as to the fact that I would not be able to attend. But because of the session on the Monday, I didn't have the opportunity to do so. So I really apologize to you, to the committee, and to the House of Representatives for your forgiveness. Thank you.
Honorable members, I speak to the Executive Commissioner of Commission.
Honorable members, and resource, and let me say. Honorable Chairman, honorable members, my name is Charles Sudi. I'm the Executive Commissioner in charge of legal.
I'm the Director of Legal and Secretary to the Secretary of the Commission.
Honorable Chairman, my name is Head of Department of Development and Organized Development. So, the announcement made yesterday is to strengthen our democratic institutions. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary complement each other. That is why we felt a meeting with the president or anybody have been notified at the time we closed at the last hearing before we adjourned from yesterday. So for us to just get a letter from the DG and particularly telling us that we've been appearing diligently and the rest. Well, all of us are yes. I don't know if you go to court whether you can even approach a judge and tell him how he conducts his proceedings. So the laws also provide procedure in which we conduct our sittings to abide by these proceedings. So we are all aware, even in America, where we compete, democracy, the American model of democracy, which we now apply ourselves of. The Congress, just on the part of me, did pass a resolution on the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, for Congress content because of certain things. So we should jealously encourage, the entrenchment of all our structures. The legislature should respect the executive. All of us must respect pronouncements of the judiciary, no matter how bad it is, unless it is appealed against. So also the judiciary, they interpret the laws, but we legislate and they must follow. So we complement each other. That is why we as Nigerians must encourage, we should not undermine any structure. Legislature should not look down upon the executive should not look down upon the legislature. Vice versa. That's so we have no ill feelings at all. We have no intention of anything other than ensuring that our institutions, exist. With that, before we continue with you, because we are already on, the SEC is an institution, so we would like at regular intervals, maybe if you cannot respond to certain issues where commissioners should. They should be. Please, clerk, can you administer off on all of them?
Do solemnly swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Do solemnly affirm that the evidence I shall give before this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Repeat after me. I,
Charles Affirmation Akubel,
do solemnly swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
And honorable colleagues, our guests, my name is Sudi. I represent an area of Nigeria Federal University. I'm from New State. Mr. Honorable colleagues,
My name is Bibo. I represent the state is in the area.
Colleagues, I am Rose Oko. I represent the Federal Constituency in Cross River State.
I represent the people of the Federal Constituency and from Akwa Ibom State.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, my colleagues, and distinguished guests, I am Umar Buba Jibril. I represent the Lokoja Federal Constituency of Kogi State. Thank you.
I remember the people, the good people of, I represent the good, the bad, and the ugly. The people of the Shaka, Kurmi, and Sardona is the famous Mambila Plateau Federal Constituency. I am from Taraba State.
Some will be on original areas, and some will be on program states. I see clarifications on even the first time. Some people say some of the things that some of the reasons are needed by you at your presentation. He claimed that the report, maybe that was asked to CBN to model because I think CBN got to buy him to what eventually became of the bar. He said you still have a document you presented to us, item number 16. And that said that everything here couldn't be true. I would want to ask you if you stand by this, things like that reported about Africa. Two, if you have backup reasons to justify some of the things here. That's number one in Africa. You also said, yes, or you also have in your presentation, number 13, that the interim administrator, if I can read that to you, the interim administrator stabilized the exchange and among others commenced steps to replace the trading platform. The personality at that point in time said, okay, yesterday said, that trading platform is still being used today and that nothing inherently was wrong with that trading platform. I would also be interested in you substantiating why that trading platform is replaced. I don't know, Chairman, after taking these questions, we can proceed to governance issues, but I would ask your lead to. I know you run your commission directorates and the guys that people in charge have been done host today. So I think it would just be fair enough to have them address some of those issues as line managers, you know. But these first two questions are directly for you, and thereafter I want to answer to the line managers. I have to give a chance to do that. Thank you, Chair. Next, it is not okay to have this and then acceptable. You don't want to rather do that.
But we will submit documents in that respect. For example, I also asked, does the trading platform have an address exchange need to be replaced? Indeed, as members you may recall, in the presentation that the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange made, he had indicated that recently there was an agreement that was signed with NASDAQ governance, which is called the coordination of the efforts that was started by the interim administrator to replace the trading platform. As I indicated, that trading platform is supposed to be one that will be more efficient and more robust, and will also support the aspiration of the stock exchange to become the gateway into the continent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to speak with the line officer in charge of humanities.
I will say that the evidence I shall give, the evidence I shall give before this committee, shall be excluded, the whole truth, the whole show, and nothing but it. So having got
well, this set is not institutional, yeah? And I reckon that what we try to do must have some form of input of everything. Okay. Did you receive a memo from one CA employer titled Illegal Interview and Employment Periodical?
Yes, I did.
Do you have a copy of it? Okay. Would you trust my judgment if I read contents of the memo? Okay. The Securities and Exchange Commission internal memorandum. Okay. And it's titled Illegal Interview / Employment by your department. Dated 8th of June 2011. And it's titled, okay, I read the title to you. It said, my attention has been drawn to an illegal interview being conducted by your department today without management approval. This is a continuation. This is a continuation of the illegality. I want to note some words for emphasis. The first word that I want you to notice, to take a very special note of, is illegal interview. And he also goes on to say continuation. That means this is not the first time. You can only continue when you have started. You are doing it. This is a continuation of illegality and lack of due process. Number 3. By your department involved since the last 18 months. Let me remind you that no individual in the executive management has the authority to employ anybody in the commission without due process. Not even the Director General can do so. The policy of the commission remains that the executive management approves employment and promotion of junior staff, while the board approves the employment and promotion of senior staff. Any salary or allowances paid based on employment not approved as appropriate is illegal expenditure, and persons involved will be held responsible to account for such. And last is, I wish to advise you against continued illegality and to take steps to inform executive management about the illegally employed persons in the commission. I am forwarding this email to all members of the executive management, DFA, and these in bracket IC in the first instance. And ended by saying, be advised with exclamation mark. So, this is unambiguous. Will you tell us about this man?
Duty himself. She came along with some staff, and then we did advise that those staff has to go through the process of employment, and then we recommended contract appointments. So what we did prepare a memo. We did prepare a memo containing those pieces of advice that it will go through the executive management, and then from the executive management it will go to the board for approval. So we pass it down, and then we were later told that she wouldn't want it to go through the executive management, and then we need to prepare another memo stating their qualification and the recommendation of positions to be given to the staff she brought. So approval was given. With the aim that later on, all those people who are employed will be collated and passed to the executive management for consideration, and then after consideration, it will go to the board for approval. We did attempt it, and the board of the commission equally advised that all those employees should come for ratification or approval. So the human resource department, we collated all those things and forwarded it to the secretary of the commission with the aim that it will go to the executive management for deliberation. After deliberation, it goes to the board. But all attempts, maybe because there were other schedule of the executive management, did not pass, did not deliberate on them, on all those recruitments, and the board has not even ratified or approved those appointments. In the operations, yes, sir.
What is the status today?
Yeah, the status today is that even at the last board meeting, I think that the issue was passed to the board, and the board advised that it should go to the executive management. So as at now, as I was speaking to the executive management, I've not deliberated on those appointments.
You said how that process. What is talking about policy issues. Okay? So, I believe this has come up a few times in the management and all that. Why haven't you finally put this on that work?
Thank you, Honorable. The structure of the commission is that the DG is the chair of the executive management, where the commissioners are member, and then the secretary of the commission is equally a member. I wouldn't know how many meetings of the executive management are so far taking place, because I'm not a member. I will only be invited if the issue is to be deliberated, then to throw lights on the other appointments.
Have you paid salary allowances to all of these people that you have recruited along over a period of time in this matter?
Yes, sir, they are enjoying our salaries and allowances.
Taking by these employees, considering that their employment has not been regularized, what ordinarily would be the implication?
So for that the executive management will sit and then pass it on to the boss, because the boss is willing at any moment to sit and rectify or approve this appointment. So the implication is that, well, at the moment, what will have caused any problem is that if the salaries and allowances are stopped, but the salaries and allowances are still on. So I don't expect any problem as a statement.
So very good. Then there are certain actions that have been taken by them, and these are people who, by the fact that they have not been approved, are known to your position. I don't think that, I don't understand me, by the fact that because when you have an anticipated approval, then your position is in your victim management is in sitting. And it's not been regularized. I do not see the difficulty of regularizing it if you are in agreement with it. But there are actions that have been taken by people who ordinarily are not to your position. By the fact that by the mere fact that they have not been protected, it's not being contributed.
Well, the implication to my mind would be the legal implication. But I believe these are people that the DG brought to the commission, and then I wouldn't think that there could be any legal action from their end.
You know, Mr. Sudi, in your other hierarchy, the hierarchy of self, is he a senior or a junior?
In the hierarchy of self, he is my senior.
Is he competent to advise you on any action that he considers proper and right? Because I think he is the deputy director leader. So we must know the legal implications of some of his advice. Yeah?
Yeah, he will give advice on any legal implications of actions taken by the human resource department.
So his advice is taken very strongly and not lightly.
Yes, and his advice should be taken strongly.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Director of Human Resources, you said the people have been entrusted. Well, who are those your
Technology that the project has to be deliberated upon by the executive management. It goes to the board, and later on, thereafter it comes to the National Assembly. Those are the two items about the process of approval.
So the salary and allowances of this staff was referring to were provided for in the budget of the commission.
By the SEC board and indicated that there were human capacity gaps at the commission. One of the initiatives she took to quickly address the capacity issues was to reach out to development agencies, sister regulators, and the private sector for assistance. This way, the SEC received technical assistance from a multilateral development bank, a sister regulator, and the private sector to revamp its suboptimal ICT infrastructure to complement the in-house ICT staff. Equally, the IFC estimate provided a resident bond advisor for 18 months to help develop the fixed income markets, and the IFC will come to the market to issue. In addition, the SEC requested and received pro bono secondment of 2 employees of Access Bank, one a project advisor on facilities management and the other on brand communication support in bracket communications assistance. These Access Bank employees have no connection with the core regulatory functions of the Commission in any manner as would create a conflict of interest. In fact, Access Bank has been very open about this and also provides support to a number of other agencies and has disclosed the details of this specific secondment in its 2010 annual report. The fact that the SEC has bank accounts and investments with a number of banks has not undermined its capacity to regulate or approve transactions related to that. The Access Bank secondment in 2010 happened because recruiting full-time staff at the SEC and the many government agencies takes a very long time. I think I addressed that issue when the question about why do we have contracts, and I think it was already reachable, and why don't we have that. Please also note that the primary regulator of Access Bank is the Central Bank of Nigeria. The transaction involving Access Bank that has required the SEC's approval was that related to its acquisition of Intercontinental Bank. Most significant securities transactions involving a bank, such as a merger or acquisition, involve shareholders, the central bank, the Ministry of Finance, various departments at the SEC, and the Federal High Court. For a merger, an acquisition, or takeover, there are laid down procedures for the SEC's approval. The DG's office receives all applications to the SEC, and in the case of a merger or acquisition, forwards it to the Executive Commission Operations. The Executive Commission Operations, in turn, forwards the application to the Director of the Securities and Investment Commission.
I believe this submission is before us.
But
submission is before us.
I didn't submit it.
Okay, so you don't have this submission.
I didn't submit, no, because I wasn't aware that I would be asked about the Access Bank comments. But it is a press release and we should, and since it was raised, because it's a conflict of interest issue, it's very important for us as an ethics regulator to make this disclosure public since it was raised. So if you permit me, I'll just finish the disclosure. Thank you, sir. The Executive Commissioner of Operations in turn forwards the application to the Director of the Securities and Investment Services Division, who then forwards the application to the Head, Measures and Takeover Department, the Head, Legal Division of SIS, the Director of the Securities and Investment Services Division receives the analysis of the transaction from the Measures and Takeover Division and the legal opinion of the Legal Division, both of the Securities and Investment Services Department. The Director, Securities and Investment Services Department, then makes a recommendation to the Executive Commissioner of Operations, who in turn reviews and either endorses or disapproves the transaction and submits to the DG for final approval. The DG's decision is based on the recommendations made and is communicated to the parties through the Executive Commissioner of Operations and the Director of the Securities and Investment Services Department. The Access Bank transaction was recommended for approval by all the departments and the officers of the SEC who reviewed it. The other stakeholders, including the shareholders, the Central Bank, the Ministry of Finance, and the Federal High Court, also approved and endorsed the transaction. On a review of the SEC's records, we find that secondment is not a new practice for us. Indeed, as far back as 1988, the DG of SEC, as a member of the Technical Committee on Privatization, endorsed the involvement and the appointment of private sector officials in the privatization process. And since that time, this practice has continued. So this is not a practice in isolation or arose as a result of any in the last 2 years. Thank you.
Well, so that we don't take too much of the time as well, I want us to keep it simple and then it's so that our police can also take the questions that we are dealing with. Would you just tell me the Access Bank is into banking and then alongside branding agency, facility managers, or multilateral agency? Just so much.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you can clarify what you're asking.
Okay. You have said that the success of Access Bank with regards to branding, expansion of branches and all of that, it would be the reason or the reasons you consider before you eventually brought these two people to work with. I'm asking, is Access Bank also a facility management outfit, a branding outfit, or a multilateral agency?
Actual agencies are agencies owned by several governments. So, for example, the African Northern Bank is owned by all African countries and more than 25 non-African countries. The World Bank is owned by, and that's why I said I wasn't sure I understood your question, because multilateral agencies are very clearly defined.
So, Access is not?
Not to my knowledge.
Fine. Would you say Access Bank is also bank? Would you also say that Access Bank is a branding organization?
I'm trying not to be misunderstood, but I think it would be better to ask Access Bank what their business is. But if you remember the context, you were asking me whether it was right. No, I need to give that context. You're asking me whether it was right that how would somebody who wants to access that be familiar with facilities management for SEC. It was in that context that I explained the specific reason why this individual came with that skill. That this particular individual had been very much behind the branch expansion, and I was looking for the experience with any of the commercial banks with the branch expansion because of our program to develop capital market resource centers as a way to address the challenges with this. So I don't know, I think it's best to have access whether that's their business.
Okay, fine, thank you, DJ. Hire these two people as individuals or as staff seconded to you from Access Bank. If it is a secondment agreement, there must be some kind of a request that Access Bank formally say second. And then I also would like to know, is Access listed?
No, we all know it's listed, absolutely. But I'd like to explain that I actually approached several private sector players asking for very specific skills and approach development plans, approach system regulators, because of the issue that I have raised that given how long it takes to hire, given that my core business is not facilities management. In fact, my colleagues have heard me have discussions around what has happened in some other places where you have been outsourced things that are not your core business. And it is something that we probably should think about in the future. So this was to address something that I thought would be very, very useful for us. And that's why I gave the explain why this specific skill was necessary. So, I can talk about the secondment program, the people we've approached, if that's what you're looking for, but I don't know if I responded to your
DG, you see, the public service schools. Now, SEC, you can utilize that, the law permits it. Can you talk of secondment on Access Bank and any other bank? Because it is a kind of interministerial or interdepartmental or whatever when we talk of secondment from an institution, whether federal or state, well, I don't know, to another arm of the district. Now, if you are talking of, a staff, one of your basic functions is mergers, acquisition, whatever, etc., etc. You go to Bank A and then say, well, this guy is an expert in sweeping. He can sweep my environment very well. I want him to come and teach my people or assist me in sweeping this one. Then issues of acquisition or maybe winding up and other things come up. You feel the management, and they are still, I believe they are still, when you talk of secondment, they will be the payroll of their original masters. Maybe you will be giving them allowance. That's my understanding of secondment. So you think the management will allow that messenger or sweeper to allow SEC to see it winding up without interference and say, hi guys, we are collecting salaries from us, SEC is trying to hand us off, or they are not trying to approve this matter. So please talk to SEC. Don't you think there is that possibility? This is the fear of you. No matter how expert it is, you regulate that in certain aspects. Whether there is a co-regulator like CBN or not, you equally have a part to play. So,
Chairman is ready.
Okay.
Related to the chairman's question, DG said, at the point of approving the acquisition of Intercontinental Bank by Access Bank, did you have the information that the present MD and DMD of Access Bank were owing Intercontinental Bank 16 billion naira?
I'll start, Honorable Chairman, with your own comments. One of the reasons I copiously went through the press release that the SEC had done on this issue was because there are several related issues. And before I even start and rehash some of the things I've already said, I never, with respect to definitions, I would always defer to a former Attorney General or to a lawyer in terms of definition. From my perspective, what I was focusing on was the issues as someone who's leading a reform agenda. And I think Honorable Danamola had explained that it was important that I take this all in the context of the fact that we need to be running, given that we had a crisis from 2006 to 2009, and I come in and I need to be running in terms of making sure that we address that crisis. I think that context is very important. The context of our environment is also very, very important, which is that in the public sector, there is a lot of support that gets provided by the private sector in several ways. In fact, I think not just in our country, in other countries, there's an increasing appreciation that there are benefits or advantages that those of us who are in the private sector, public sector bring, and that those who come from the private sector bring. And so if you have teams that have both, that it is good. But on the fundamental issue of conflict of interest, on character, on issues of principle, conflict of interest issues are dealt with by establishing mechanisms that ensure that there is no conflict of interest. And where there's a conflict of interest, that there are mechanisms to deal with that conflict of interest. First and foremost, I always say that the easy one to manage is, for example, for my husband and I to declare ourselves if we share the same name. There are people who have much more intimate relationships, but we are not aware of them. Or a father-son relationship or all that. So, unveiling and being very open about a particular issue is one of the first principles of conflict of interest. The second principle is recusing yourself where there is any incidence of conflict of interest. And the third one, which is the one that relates to us, is to put in place processes that are not just dependent on one individual. And that is what most regulators would do. And that's why you were very kind to allow me to explain the processes within SEC that ensure that conflict of interest is minimized. Because
their appointment was renewed against the advice of the office department.
I think Honorable Mover, you really know the SEC. My own knowledge of the issue is different. My own knowledge of the issue is different from yours. Your knowledge of the issue is different from yours. And I said you must be familiar with my institution, but my own knowledge is different from yours.
Chairman, please, there is nothing here we do that is personal. Please, madam, I could recall the other day you kept making reference to my question and mentioning me by name and all that. Please, I don't know. I just ask you a question. It is not like that you tell us. And at the right time I will show you the contrary. But please, I don't want sarcastic comments about me.
Please.
That's Honorable Cooper, by name. The way that I was trained, recognizing people by name is actually respectful. If there was an unintended impression that I created, absolutely not. I apologize profusely. Thank you.
DG, well, Honorable Buba needs to know SEC more than myself. Nobody is claiming to know SEC more than yourself. You are there. You understand? He's a legislator. He could have gotten information. That's why it is an investigative hearing. We could have gotten information anywhere based on that. As legislators, as representatives of Nigerians, we can ask you questions concerning this. If it is not so, we take on. Oh, no, it is not like that. From the way I know SEC, or what is obtainable in SEC, this is the position. But when you now begin to make allusions, oh, so you seem to know my institution more than me. I mean, this committee is not proper. That is what Honorable Buba is saying. So you can continue with your response.
I'd already answered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I want to. I believe that when you return radio, and we are observed in chapter 36 of your item 36 of your presentation, strengthening of SEC human capital. The diagnostic study undertaken by Accenture in 2008 of the Commission revealed human capital as a major weakness. According to the report, less than 20% of SEC staff work in core operational areas of the Commission. A sharp contrast from 70% as obtained in more advanced markets. The report expressly stated that it is unlikely that current staffing in terms of skills, competence and abilities, deployment and utilization at the SEC can deliver a world-class market regulator. My question is, if this is the diagnosis as of 2008 and we are engaging staff, why are we going for temporary staff who will suddenly go, learn about the organization, acquire these talents, and exit? Then we get back to square one. Why wouldn't we ordinarily go the long haul and get proper talent? Thank you.
The approach that we have taken at the Securities and Exchange Commission to address the issue of the weaknesses on a more long-term basis, we will not, the world is not waiting for us to hire the staff that we need first to be able to serve the investing public and to serve Nigeria. So I believe that the reason the contract employment was actually envisaged was to allow a stopgap measure as you seek to address your staffing issues on a more long-term basis. So as myself, and so therefore when I arrived and Mr. Dowder himself explained this concept of contract employment, which had existed in the institution over several years, I understood it as that. And so there is a two-pronged approach: contract to try and make sure that you come up to speed very quickly, and then a more robust plan to try and hire staff. In terms of our long-term plan, As you had pointed out, Honorable Okechukwu, we had, as FCC, invited Accenture, I believe it was in September of 2008, to do that diagnostic study on the SEC. I believe that the report was submitted to us in March of 2009. It was one of the, as I mentioned in my presentation, one of the documents that I used as a basis to understand what some of the challenges were. And you did highlight one specifically that I indicated from my presentation, which is that we had more staff in the non-core areas, not in accounting, not in law, not in finance, not in economics, and of course being an institution that's trying to modernize, also not in technology. And so we started that process, and that's why I indicated that one part of our process was what culminated in the recruitment in December 2011 of 52 young professionals who came from a pool of 30,000 applicants. That process we started, I would say the commission started first with an approval and a discussion at the board of what are those elements. My first board meeting actually was one of the items discussed was about recruitment issues and the need for us to address this issue. That process, and I'm describing it just to make the point around the benefits of contract staff. That process allowed us first to go through due process in trying to get the entity that would support us in making sure that we have a first-class process. So we, for example, did not end up advertising the Young Professionals Program until December of 2010 because we first had to hire somebody, a reputable firm, that would work with us in that process. We then went through a process that took us 1 whole year, and the Young Professionals did not start until December of 2011. And I give this example just to highlight the point around the issues of how long it takes when we go through what is a rigorous process. But I do think that we've also been very open as an institution about the capacity challenges that we have. We have a lot of great staff, and I would say most staff in the SC are great staff, but there is a recognition of the gaps that we have. Indeed, at our most recent board meeting, there was a concern that the board had raised specifically about what we needed to do. And that concern led them to say that given that we still have very significant challenges, and given one of the lessons that we learned is our capacity as SEC, that it is important that we do a competency assessment of all the staff that we have on board today so that we can have a comprehensive plan. That is something that just happened in our last board meeting, which means that it is still work in progress, this issue of tackling the capacity challenges that we face. We also have positions that have been vacant, even pre-me joining the SEC at very senior levels. So for example, the position that Mr. Downer, as an example, occupies himself, along with a number of others, are actually what you would term in another environment acting positions, because he is the head of a department, but he's not director level. And we are also embarking on that process of trying to ensure that at the most senior level, at the mid-management level, that we also do what we've been able to do at the level of the young professionals. These are just a few things I want to say to try and highlight that we are making the effort. It is work in progress, and the contract staff issue has allowed us to have a stopgap measure to try and address it. There are other reasons why you hire contract staff. The rules, I think it's the civil service rules, do say that people who are of a certain age are not allowed to come in as permanent staff, but they can be hired on a contract basis. And it's very specific. And those are the rules that Mr. Dowd showed me when I arrived at the SEC. So I didn't, the way that it's done in the position is very different. So I am acting both on the basis of what I read and on the basis of the advice that he provided and others, the Executive Commissioner, Finance and Administration. So my sense is that we're very much aligned. But where we have not completed the process is this issue of ratification of staff from 2008 to date. Thank you.
Their experience, are they corporates, 1 year, 2 years? When you talk of young professionals, then let me have that before I...
Up to 5 years after leaving university was what we emphasized.
Now...
Or living in tertiary institutions.
Right. You are talking of young professionals and then having a world-class capital market institution. And I think somebody that is 5 years experience who might not have, participated anywhere in the capital market. And then we have people within the industry, wherever they are, because it is a very professionalized institution. Once you don't get it right, the entire system will not. So I wonder how we can, evolve a first-class institution with people that are fresh. What are they coming to inject into that institution? Because it's a question that is no substitute to experience at all. If I have a chambers as a lawyer, if you go and work in the bank and you come to my chambers, I will not employ you because you are not a litigation lawyer. You don't have the experience. So please, let us be
categories of staff that need to be hired. One is at the leadership level, which is why I give the example that we have a number of positions at the leadership level that are vacant today, where we've had staff who are not director level who are occupying those positions. Then we also have positions at the mid-career level. Because what you will do is look at a specific department and say, for example, and this is for example the case in internal control, in finance and accounts, what are the skills that you need at the mid-career level? You need chartered accountants. And one of the observations is, for example, in our internal control, that we have very few chartered accountants, yet an internal control function is one way you need chartered accountants. That competency assessment allows us to bring people who are chartered, but also who have sufficient experience. And then there is the third level, which helps you in succession planning, which helps you in grooming young people, which helps you to support the nation in its bid to ensure that our young people and our youth are employed. And so you bring people at the leadership level, at the mid-career level, and at the young professionals level. And it also energizes an organization because, as you probably know, and many of us who are, I would say, middle-aged, our young people are more computer literate. And so they bring certain skills that some of us generally don't have. They bring in an openness. So when you have a reform agenda, young people are just more focused in doing their work because they want to aspire and improve their career. They want to learn. But they also bring youthfulness so that they can re-energize an institution. But most importantly, you start to work on succession planning. What we have done with respect to the Young Professionals Program, because I think your point around how can we make sure that they're very ready and able to carry out their duties. When they started, we had what most people would call a boot camp, where they had training on the core areas of the institution. We then had them spend, I think it was supposed to be a month, but they ended up spending about 3 weeks in different types of institutions to give them a sense of what it is that they should be doing. And then they were placed in various functions. Some of them mid-level and listed. And whether you are new or experienced, because the other thing we've done as SBC over the years, and we're doing better, is also to train ourselves, because this is a market where the products are evolving.
I'm concerned about the young professionals, what you say, well, the whole idea is they have digital minds, while people like those that have analog minds. Anyway,
maybe I need to just make a clarification. Did you, any other person sitting in your chair today, the person will have to account Nigeria just for yourself. This is not, you don't have traditional society to divide. Nobody is taking a portion as you. If there's one person who is most important, most crucial in the matrix today, of where investors want to share, where the capital market to go, you understand? Absolutely. The regulator will show the way, and by reason of what you do, we're talking about what everybody says, what everybody does, will determine what happens in the market. So, if we have some of these fine-tooth comb questions, I would expect that you see that aspect here. Ultimately, the market where people have lost so much to ultimately lost their lives, and we're trying to get them back on track, let us do what I need to do. I know that Congress already also did something like this, at some point. So, second question that I want to go to. I didn't finish with the human resources manager, but provided the platform for what I needed to ask. Access Bank is also listed at the beginning. If Access Bank is listed, are still operating right now in the capital market. I'm asking myself, are we going to be able to sufficiently discharge with the issue of conflict of interest if every other bank, every other player, maybe in the same computing industry, have information that two of those people operating in the market are now advisors to do it? Would you comment on that?
Chairman, honorable members, I'd like to confirm that I'm open for you to ask me any question that you would like me to answer. And I will, to the best of my ability, answer the question. I'm sure that each question you ask me is based on all wisdom, and that you have very genuine reasons to ask those questions. I was studying pages as I was speaking because you have raised very specifically the issue of the support that we have received in terms of 2 staff working with us from Access Bank. And if you permit me, Honorable Chairman, Honorable Members, maybe I can read the press release. Thank you very much. At the botched hearing, we were asked, did the SEC or DG SEC compromise a regulatory function by engaging Access Bank staff on secondments? The answer that we provided, and I'm reading out today, said no. Laid down rules, procedures, and processes have been strictly complied with by the SEC since January 2010, including with the processing of any transaction related to Access Bank. The seconded access bank staff were a project advisor, and earlier there was a question about what specifically, I think it was to the head of HR, Mr. Dowler, what does a project advisor do? The project advisor has helped us with facilities management, the management of SEC offices. We have had challenges in terms of the management of our facilities, and not to digress from your question, but if you want me in the future to talk to you about those specific challenges that a staff member has helped us with, I could provide them. But I'd like to focus on this issue of conflict of interest, which is essentially what you are praying on, and not to address it.
Can I just give you additional question? I can take it together. Drawing from what you have just said now, they're supposed to provide support in the area of activities and access bank staff, provide support for self in how to manage sex facilities. I believe access bank staff will have a lot of information more about access facilities, access bank facilities than sex facilities. I think I'm suggesting or asking, how much of sex do these guys know not to be able to provide and lend facility management services to your organization?
Was actually responsible for the branch expansion of Access Bank. And one of the things we appreciated very much from some of the commercial banks is what they've done with respect to their brands. And so, for example, if you go to any city today and you see an Access Bank, you can recognize it. If you go to any city today and see a GP Bank, you can recognize it. And so what we were looking for was an understanding of how you can quickly expand your presence and brand it such that there's an understanding of what it is that you represent. So the idea with respect to this issue was specifically that as SEC, one of the gaps that we recognize is not being as present in our regional offices as we would like to be. And so one of our aspirations is to have capital market resource centers, which is where any Nigerian can walk into and be educated about the capital markets. As you may recall from my presentation, one of the challenges we had identified was really the level of knowledge of investors as they invested in this market. And we have 7 offices, including our headquarters here in Abuja. And what we basically would like is to set up wherever that office is, whether it is Port Harcourt, Maiduguri, Kano, Kaduna, to have an office that people will recognize as where you come to learn about the capital markets. Our plan is to have computers, books, have people there who can support you if you have a complaint. Because right now, the way that complaints are managed, that people write us letters and then we write them back. Yes, you can just want to have a conversation with someone in the SEC. And so we would like the experience that commercial banks have had in that respect, in building those kinds of offices. And that is actually one of the mandates of the facilities, the project advisor on facilities. And he is very good, and we don't have that experience today in the SEC.
Okay.
But on the conflict of interest issue, which you have raised, we also indicated that the choice of these 2 people were in areas that were not in our regulatory function. Because Mr. Downer explained that one was a project advisor, and then there was a communications assistant. It says, prior to Mr. K's assumption of duty, 2 independent studies, I think it was probably the one that Okechukwu was referring to, was commissioned.
Now, you're saying this document is yours.
150%. I did explain even that it was my first press briefing. That's why I'm a bit confused as what you're saying. And that the origin is an initiative that the SEC had started before I joined. So that's why I made the point about what is that roadmap. That was a press briefing, as distinct from something that came from the industry, which was the wisdom of the board of SEC to ensure. So I'm not sure I understand where you're going to.
No problem. Well, in trying to have, what I'm trying to do is to also be able to, the recovery of the capital market cannot be driven by one individual. This is my assumption. And I'm not saying you're guilty of that. I'm not saying you're guilty of that. But it will also be reassuring for me, if you don't mind, if I ask your listeners if they also have input into that same framework, that document that we're running with, to be able to have a world-class market.
To what you said by reiterating, confirming, but I agree with you. I don't think that anybody, any single person can build a world-class capital market for Nigeria. And in fact, even in my choice as to what I would make a presentation of, I made the choice that I would talk about the work we've done with respect to revamping the Capital Markets Committee. Because I do think that not just SEC, not just the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but every stakeholder in the capital market must be aligned. And that's what we've done with respect to the Capital Markets Committee. And I would say that what I've been told 2 years on, both from those of us within the SEC and externally, is that there is greater alignment and understanding of what world-class means. So I didn't arrive in Nigeria and say, okay, what was done before I came was not good enough. I actually got everybody to align around what world-class means from an implementation point of view.
Thank you, Did you? Please, your microphone.
Well, Mrs. Sekina, I apologize. How long have you worked for SEC?
I've been with SEC for 10 years.
How many years?
10 years.
Okay.
All right, then, for 10 years. Have you seen the framework of roadmap to world trust market and how much of input came from you?
It's in context. When the DG came, she was to give a presentation at the Nigerian Economic Summit, which I think invited her in Lagos. And I prepared the paper for her, which she presented at that forum. And I think the roadmap, which she has now, substantially contains some of the things that I wrote in that paper that she presented. I'm not sure whether there have been changes since then, but for what I saw, as when I just saw the room, I think it's also on our internet, it's also on the website. It basically contains substantially what was prepared at that time. So I would say that maybe I think my input was there, as a result of that presentation, which I prepared for her at that time.
Have you had time?
I want to remind us that we are all on earth.
Yeah.
No.
Have you had time
as management to now review, to say, okay, fine, this is the document that we're working with, that has milestones, that can benchmark achievements, actions against. Do you have that?
And I really like to also make a clarification based on my earlier comments. When I say that my inputs were aimed at roadmap that I saw. I did not mean that as executive management to look at it. Because just a presentation she was going to make, and she was very quickly at that, and she wanted me to do a take out of her. And I think included a number of things there that form part of the roadmap. So I'm not talking about, unless I say my input, I would say my input is in that roadmap. But as an executive management, I can't remember that we met to complete that. Okay. Or whether there were milestones that work to be done. I'm not sure if there's anything.
Thank you, Mr. President. Without overflowing it, may I ask you if you share or you want to comment on what was here? Because you said that, the DG relatively new at the time, good to say, wants to hit the ground running, either to create a paper somewhere, and then she presented that. And then that was all that she could say about the roadmap. What do you say about the roadmap to work class?
As Secretary to the Commission, I'm also the Secretary to the Executive Management Committee. I'm not aware that any kind of this document was presented before it and discussed. I'm not aware of that.
Thank you.
As Executive Commissioner in charge of legal and enforcement, I'm also a member of the board of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And I want to say on honor that I have not made any input into any roadmap. I have been at SEC since 1993, and I retired as a director in 2008 and assumed this position as an executive commissioner till date. So I didn't make any input, and no roadmap was discussed with me either personally or with me in my capacity as a member of the executive management or with me in any meeting of the board.
I have a question about Ghana again. I've been in the capital market for almost 5 years now. I was in the stock exchange for 20 years for doing SEC. In SEC, I'm now over 10 years in SEC. And the issue with them now, I've never been involved in different work. Really, I was never meet, and when you came, I learned which operation has something which I don't think I have any in it, and we never discussed it.
Thank you. Just to confirm. Well, I don't want to take too much of the time of the GG, I'm sure it's pressed for time. We have to do a thorough job.
Wine is okay.
I think that's our turn. Yes, I think that's our turn. Okay. I think this should be within the 40 of the executive functional leader. Were there issues in your run to AMCON application, board application to SEC? That's number one. Two, the SEC conduct inspection on access in the run-up to the merger with Intercontinental and statement of Finland. And I also like to know the last time that the Commission also had inspection on market operators and public quoted companies. How often were they doing it before, or were they doing it before? And then I would also want you to provide said report of inspection of Dangote and BCC acquisition as stipulated before the present paper. And then can you refresh us? Who is the here in there for 30 years? Can you refresh our mind about the role, the report of the cabinet investigation with regards to the interim administrator who now is SEC? But shortly, you go back to what I was
I think all I can say about that was that the inside administrator was working for artificial evidence law, and the SEC actually sanctioned artificial evidence law in that case. Whether he as a person, was sanctioned, I don't think so. Maybe Mr. Odoro will be in a better position. I can't remember that he as a person was the firm was sanctioned by the SEC.
What was his role?
His role as the
in the course of the investigation of Kadu, it turned out that after was sanctioned, what was his place at Williams?
He had no idea. I think it was a partner in Article Williams. I wasn't sure that it was a partner in the Nigerian office or it was a partner in the Ghanaian office. But all that he did basically was to sanction the firm itself, which was at that time.
And somebody from that person became the interim administrator of NSC. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but he became the interim administrator of the NSC as a person.
Yes. Please go ahead. I'm trying to do that question.
Okay, the other question was
okay, the other question was on
the inspector report. Inspection report on access on FinBank, and then when was the last time the commission did the inspection on market operators and public quoted companies, and how often were you doing this before?
Okay, on the inspection report, I think I'm going to transfer that to Mr. Dora, so this is directly that. So on the quarterly basis, it's got to publish their financial audited. And what we do is that in the course of looking at the financial, we also look at their audited account, which is very, very important. And if there are issues in the audited account or issues in the partially reporting to the SEC, the SEC will normally send them the efficiency letters to explain some of those things that we say in the observations. On a number of occasions, when we think that it is a very material observation that we have noted, we invite them, and often we will invite the entire board because they are public companies, and the accounts are responsibilities of the public companies, of the directors. So we invite all of them to the SEC. But when we discover that there is need for us to go in and look at certain things that we think that we need to look at, like that is affecting the financials of the company, we will send a team to go into the public companies to look at them. And we've done several of that. And based on the inspection report, we then take necessary actions. Either tell them to try and identify the things that we have to do that. Or if we need to sanction them, we actually do sanction them. But we don't like the public companies, we don't routinely like the operators, we don't routinely go into the public company to do an inspection of the public companies. It's usually standard inspection that we do on public companies. Because we get returns regularly and monitor it. And also in Nigeria, we send returns also to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So we actually have, two agencies looking at their performance and what's happening with them.
Thank you, Chairman. You asked me a question with respect to outcome bond applications. My directorate is actually not directly involved in processing bond applications. We are a referral directorate. However, when applications are submitted before SEC, which goes to the Directorate of Operations, there is a standing process that before any approval is given, our opinion is sought as to the standing of operators involved in that application and the company involved in the application. And we will normally give a clean bill of health or we will raise issues. So for AMCON applications, I can't remember our involvement in any specific bond application beyond, these clearances we give. But the only relationship I remember that we had with AMCOM in respect of their intervention in banks had to do with their trying to get a co-investor for Union Bank. The Union Bank, AMCOM was trying to get a co-investor for Union Bank, and then application was filed with the commission, and our clearance was sought, and my team denied the clearance originally.
Please put up the microphone.
Union was sought. Yes. What happened to? Yes, we're not going to clear Union Bank for that either acquisition or merger or anything, because from our records, Union Bank had 8 billion naira raised from the public, which they have not accounted for. And we said we will not clear Union Bank for anything until we account for that money.
But what happened?
At the end of the day, all sorts of meetings were held, and we still insisted we are not giving clearance.
Are they supposed to account and give their security sold to who?
To SPEC as use of proceeds. And there's record they have not been able to explain 8 billion. And so we insisted we were not going to try until they explained 8 billion. The MD of Union Bank, the group MD, the foreign group MD, came and held a meeting with me, with her team, and said they cannot find within the bank any explanation for that money. And then I said, we will not clear. And then the executive director, either finance or one of the members of the team, said that they used the money to pay back the bank for the monies they invested. They used to set up Union Bank UK. Then we demanded for evidence of such approval by the board of Union Bank to pay itself. None was produced. We then said, show us evidence of payment of such amount of money in respect of Union Bank UK. None was produced. And then we said there was no deal. And they now brought in the AMCOM consultant by name, I think is Bolaji Balogo, who is the consultant, to more or less say that we are trying to frustrate the process. And I told them, as far as I sit on this desk, nobody will approve clear from my directorate, Union Bank, except and until I get 2 conditions. One, that Union Bank explains the use of that proceeds, or AMCOM admits that it has not been explained and they have assumed that loss. And AMCOM wrote us a letter to say they have assumed the loss, that we should regard it as one of the losses which Union Bank incurred in the course of its mismanagement. And on that basis, we said, since AMCOM has recognized it, then we said, AMCOM, which is recognizing all the losses anyway and taking responsibility for that money, then we said they can go ahead. And that was the point when we gave our own bit of go ahead for the Union Bank transactions. So it will be proper to know the causes of putting up that loss or assumption of that loss. Because one basic thing is that AMCOM is funded through taxpayers' money. And the liability for whatever they do goes back to taxpayers. Yeah. You understand? And from what you described, it would appear to be a phantom loss. Because there's no basis for it, and they are required because we don't go acquiring all manner of things. And at the end of the day, we are responsible. You understand? There must be a basis of action. So, in your own judgment,
bit surprising for AMCON to assume. Indeed, what I urge the MD and the consultant of AMCON to do is to investigate where the money was, that it was not thrown into the lagoon.
Sorry, Mr. Adora. On a strong issue that feels strongly about, that the director feels strongly about, did you raise it with the DG at any point?
Yes, he communicated through the process of the commission, that is the transaction process. A formal position was stated to the directorate, that's the SIS department, that this is our position. The DG has described the process through these things through, and we follow that process. You write your position and pass on. That process is in the file that goes for ultimate approval. These are the things that the DG consider before approval is given. So we did that, it's in that file. It is in that file to this day. And that letter from AMCON is in the file. My personal view is that, well, for whatever reason, AMCON wrote the letter saying that yes, the money should be recognized as one of the losses that the Union Bank incurred. I personally felt that somebody needs to account for that. That's my view.
You're asking them to account for the money raised under the IPO. That's correct, right? Yesterday on Monday, we asked a question about wrong deployment of proceeds raised through securities raised on the capital market. I could remember the DG said it's the responsibility of the boards of those companies. But now you are like saying that at a point in time, the SEC has the responsibility to ask for accountability, like in this case. So will it be right to assume that all these companies that really deployed incorrectly money they raised at the capital market, if for any reason they come back to SEC for any regulatory purposes, you will demand for accountability of IPOs raised earlier?
Yes, we do.
You do. So in your custody, there must have been a lot of, probably some companies that have had infractions in the course of deploying these resources. Are you in custody of any other company besides Union Bank?
The directorate is done, or rights issue. The Directorate of Operations will pass information to the Director of Legal Enforcement, specifically Monitoring Division. Monitoring Division will now will write to ask for a submission from the company and the issuing house that handle the offer.
Can you avail this committee enforce on companies say in the last 4 years?
Yes, if I go back to the record and bring that as for me, but off by heart, I can tell you that we've sanctioned Cadbury in the past for misapplication of proceeds. We have sanctioned the Royal Exchange for misapplication of proceeds. We have sanctioned FCMC, I think along with the Cadbury for assisting house.
What does the sanction entail?
The sanction entails monetary fine, penalty, and then directing them to go back to their shareholders to report themselves that this is what they have done, and get either the shareholders' acceptance or rejection of that violation of the process of issue. If they get the shareholders' approval of the violation, then we endorse it. But if they do not get the approval, they are now forced to look for that money and put it back to the particular use that it was supposed to.
Mr. Chairman, this committee is in possession of resources raised during the last IPO was not properly deployed. Are you aware of the wrong deployment of Starfum's IPO results?
Not yet. Sorry.
So it doesn't constitute part of what you have sanctioned?
No, I have not read any such petition. I cannot sit here exactly now and say anything about Starfum, because when the papers come, the report will come from the issuing house of the company. Our people will appraise it. Then our people will go on ground to actually see. So that report hasn't come. I have not seen it. But I guess I tell you on honor that I will go back and find out from my team what has become of every Starfum issue.
Yesterday I asked a question that Access Bank raised money in 2007 and instead of utilizing that money for provision decided to warehouse part of them. And later, I think in 2012, used it to buy the new sanction Access Bank for warehousing that money.
Okay, I think the Executive Commissioner of Operations have more information on that than me, but I can tell you from the point of view of our work with the Directorate of Legal and Enforcement, my team actually queried Access Bank. I don't know whether Baba Osman is here, who is the head of investigations. He actually insisted that the MD of Access Bank in person should come to say and explain before him what happened to the process of issue. And when the MD came and held a meeting with my team and did all his explanation, the directorate sent a report telling management that this is what has happened. A sanction doesn't come from me or my directorate as a person. Sanction comes from the management action on the report relating to what we have done.
Was there a management action?
Well, I think at that point I have a lot to agree with you.
What happened is after the bank came to market in 2007 and released about 236 billion naira. And part of what we said when the students say this was starting investing, branch expansion and things like that. At a point, they needed to just get the central bank's approval, to do the branch expansion. And unfortunately, from what we saw, they couldn't get that approval from the central bank to do bank expansion. Obviously, the money was in their reserve, so they passed the money. And then, so it wasn't actually an issue of misapplication of the issue process, but it was an issue of not using the issue process, not following the issue process. So they still have left with them about 58.2 billion naira of that total of 130-something billion which is raised from the market. So at the point where the enforcement people did the monitoring of the use of the issue process, they discovered that the patents finished using the issue process and it still has some left. After the pandemic goes, that we wanted to use the money, to acquire Intercontinental, because money was in their reserve, so they had it as part of their shareholders' loss. So the monitoring, in fact, the Executive Commissioner actually said they go ahead and provided they got the approval of their shareholders. Because obviously to vary the use of the proceeds, you need the shareholders' approval. Because to start with, the shareholders are invested based on what you have disclosed in the prospectus that you're going to use the money for. So if you've got to go back now, to change it, you have to go back to them for that approval. So obviously they got the approval for their shareholders and they could use it to acquire Intercontinental Bank. So we got the shareholders' approval. We requested that they should submit that which we have. The shareholders are proving that it should vary, and we can send that before this house. That's exactly what happened in the case of Africa. And before we approved it, we ensured that they had gotten the shareholders' approval to do that. So the shareholders were very much aware that they were using the 58.2 billion, which was part of the unutilized portion of the issue proceeds to acquire Intercontinental Bank. And you know that if you've got to have a shareholders meeting, you have to give a 51 days notice, and you have to state exactly that you're going to discuss at the shareholders meeting. So all that was done. If they had done that, it would have been possible for the SEC to approve the transaction. On the feedback and estimate, with respect to the shareholders, not shareholders, the complainant.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, with respect to feedback, we had about, in fact, the transaction is very long time, because we had actually said we were going to approve on the next setting conditions. And the matter was also in court, the matter with respect to the preference shares. So what we did was to isolate the preference shares, because it was already in court, and we did not approve anything to do with the preference shares until that particular action is vacated or not vacated or whatever other legal actions are taken on it. But what we did was to approve the acquisition of Intact. And at the time when we were dealing with the applications, the monitoring had actually told us that there were a number of enforcement that told us that there were a number of enforcement issues with respect to complaints that they had had. So what we did was, obviously with that kind of information, we wouldn't want to approve until it has all been resolved. And again, sometimes when there are complaints, and like you said earlier, we want to look at the materiality. What regarding to investors, if you go in approving that particular transaction. For instance, we give the example of the 4,000 and I told that. Because you had cases where maybe an operator is owing the commission 4,000, 10,000, and it's written to the SIS department that this is an outstanding amount that is being owed by an operator. Also, we don't want to stop that transaction at the result of 10,000 because you know that it's something that would be paid. Because you always have to also focus on the investor protection. If you don't look at it, how does it cost the investor out there? And in the case of Intact, that was one of the considerations. And we looked at, because after the intervention in PhD, Springbank, and Africa, I think the result that we had was that we will not allow any other bank to go under, as a result of any delay in trying to get transactions through. And we made sure that we got all these banks through, so that the shareholders at least, do not lose anything at the end of the day. So we invited, we actually spoke to the Springbank people, and they had about 30-something transactions. Sorry, something complaints. Because of the fact that we said we were not going to approve those transactions, they made sure that we substantially resolved most of the complaints that we had. So out of about 30-something, they reduced it to about 6. And in one case, they said that case was already in court. And everything had given an order that they should deposit, I think, 2.5 billion which that complainant was making in an escrow account with the central bank. The argument they gave was that this matter is in court, and if they go and deposit that money as the escrow is going to jeopardize the case in court. And mind you, I'm sorry, they also had a matter that they had not filed with the SEC. But what they were seeking approval for at that time was an acquisition. So what we did, in the interest of the shareholders, because had we not done that, maybe things that they were doing different, and then the shareholders will be out there unprotected. And we felt that, okay, we can grant that approval to payment, STM that came back to go and get the money. Bear in mind that they still have a transaction that is not completed with the STM. And they have said that they were going to complete the merger in 1 year after the acquisition had been done. So we gave that condition to them that the merger, before the merger is approved, they will resolve the 6 extra cases that they have complained that they have before them. I think they just filed the merger application about 2 weeks ago, not too long ago, they just did that. And we have it in mind, and we've also been in discussion with them to ensure that they actually resolve all the cases, all the complaints that they have before them. Because investor protection is very important. We've got to protect the investor. If there are complaints, we must make sure that we look at those complaints. And if the investors are right, they must pay. There has to be compensation. And the other issue that we also considered was the fact that we didn't do that. What would I think the state of Kenya today? They will just wake up one day and the agencies are taking it over as a big plan. And that was why we took the action that we take on Kenya.
On the issue of conflict of interest as a regulator. And we are aware that the DG still sits on the board of AMCOM. And we have the 3 bridge banks, nationalized banks. And they are even preparing to list in the stock exchange from the pronouncement of the DG AMCOM. And now the issue is, isn't there a moral question here about DG SEC sitting on the board of AMCOM, an organization she's supposed to oversight?
Question of Monday, and my response was that there was no conflict of interest. Indeed, as you had pointed out in some of the discussions, the AMCOM is owned.
Sorry, I know you made reference to it, you answered it, but after that, the information is that they are on the stock exchange, and you are still there as a member of the board.
First and foremost, the SEC is not the owner of the asset management company. It's not holding a trust from government. So SEC doesn't make a decision about who is on the board of AMCOM. Secondly, AMCOM is not trying to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I think you may have been referring to the fact that there is a process where the banks that have been breached and are now owned by AMCOM, there is a process of trying to have them be sold. And that process, because I listened to some of the information that the MD of AMCOM shared, and he indicated that he expects that some of those banks will ultimately be listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but it's not AMCOM. List. But in terms of board members, as you know, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank is on the board, the MD of NDIC, and as an asset management company, it's actually a bad bank. So essentially, the Central Bank and NDIC are much closer regulators to AMCOM than an SEC is. We would only regulate in the case of an issuance of security. But they've got owners and the Ministry of Finance and the asset and Central Bank and NDIC and Central Bank are on the board. So, but but I'm not one who appoints board members of our team in this respect.
I think the students of organizational behavior would ordinarily see from the interaction or the body language of the executive management in total that there is some kind of dysfunction here. Going forward, because it is not that we ask somebody who should know who say it doesn't know. We ask the next person who say it doesn't know. Then there is a recommendation from human resources that contact engagement could be possible, that there is no ratification. And now you are supposed to share a blueprint. And we are supposed to drive this reformation or this move to world-class market. I would want to, even the leadership in the executive committee, headed by the DG. I know that it is important, no matter how brilliant, no matter how good one is, there should be necessary social skills to be able to move forward together. Moving forward, I would want to know from members of the executive committee what would be their advice in terms of working and going through the process of this world-class market. Starting from Mrs. Sekina, Mrs. Sekina,
for her. I want her to tell us how the SEC gave approval for AMCOM on 5 cities.
We filed AMCOM bonds, how the SEC gave approval. I got an email from Mr. Sudi. I think that email was also sent to Mr. Sudi, the director of SIS. You know, she did contact me that she got an email that the bond should be approved. And the bond had actually been approved. That's what I was told. And I said it was impossible for the bond to be approved because I haven't gone through the file. So the bond should still be, the file should still be with the debt officer, going through it. And that was what I knew last. Because the day before that information was given to me, I had actually discussed it in my office, but there were certain issues with respect to that particular transaction. So we're expecting that, it will be normal. What are the issues? The issues were principally issues surrounding certain waivers that were given by the minister. And we have said that those waivers were not applicable to that particular transaction of AMCOM, the 65. That they were not applicable to the 65 AMCOM board. And that if they wanted that waiver to be applicable, they've got to go back to the minister, and get another waiver, to cover them to cover them on that particular transaction. But the argument of the financial advisor was that, to cover them, and we said no, we did not. So when I got that email, I was surprised and I immediately responded to the email, that having seen the file, and it could be an aberration for the file that had not gone through the normal process to have been approved. And that was the last I knew about that AMCOM bond.
Then back to
documents in relationship to that deal, please. Your waiver that was not applicable and so on. That means the bond was approved without your input.
Saying that what we could do to move the capital market forward?
No. What I'm saying is that there is no work pattern where we do not know so many things. You understand?
Yeah, I do.
How do you now work as a team?
Yeah.
I know exactly what's going on there. But I agree with you that there is a dysfunction in the sense that we haven't actually been working as a team, as one. And that's unfortunate because I think that, if you don't work as a team, it's practically impossible to achieve your dreams. And I think the starting point should be we should work as one. And if there are certain is giving position or whatever, they've got to be thrown overboard. And the capital market and the organization should be paramount and principal in everything that we do. We should always look at it, look at the market, look at the investors out there. So I would suggest that maybe the way forward is that we should communicate more. We should do more actually making face-to-face and discussing issues rather than doing more text messages and emails. I think the emails and text messages are fantastic, there's no doubt about that, but we should have scheduled meetings and we should keep to those scheduled meetings. I'm not saying that in an organization you cannot have disagreements. Disagreements are very important because they are actually bring out the best in people sometimes. Because if I hold on to my point, my opinion and the other person also. But we need to shift ground also. And we also need to respect one another. So there's always a head. And the head should be respected and the head should respect the rest of the body. I think that is very, very important. And I think that in teamwork, we need to work. Institutions and countries that are succeeded are actually succeeded at the result of that teamwork. And that team spirit is very, very important. So I think that's all I'm going to say.
Now,
I think it's not present. I think in the past we have had situations where we work very much as a team. I'm really sorry that I need to complete this. When we had Mr. Parking and Mr. We really work as a team. And we had it was a tradition that every morning we actually assembled in the DG's office and discuss issues. And that was I wasn't a commissioner then, I was the director, even as the director. The director and the commissioners would assemble the 2 regions for 30 minutes. And then you can rub minds together about certain issues. And then you go back, do your work. And because of, it talks about, the passion, in the work, and it really works for the organization. So I think that is really happening now, in the organization. Maybe that's why we're having some of the issues that we're having. So the communication is very important.
Yes, like Mr. Kenya has pointed out, I think going forward, the trust must be there. I think the chairman had mentioned the issue of the speed of trust. I think if we don't trust ourselves, what we do, we don't give, we are not confident in each other, we will not move forward. That's one of the most. I remember when we went to retreat, and like you said, this is probably the speed of trust. It's one of the issues that we have really highlighted, and but later on the trust is no more there. Because whatever you do, when the trust, the breach of trust, there will not be good communication. And in terms of decision making, there should be a collective decision making. Certain decision will be taken, you might not even be aware, because there should be this collective decision making, so that should be belong to the sense of knowledge. Certain things will go rather unilaterally or to a certain section which you might not even know. But I think these are the kind of things we should do. One very important point she mentioned, communication and accessibility. We should be able to access a leader, team together, at any given time we can talk out and have one-to-one talk. And this is very likely. So my own is that we should work together, we should have that trust, decision making, and most importantly, that trust and sense of belonging should go together.
I don't know whether you have issues with the contract staff that is not going to rectify. That is just part of the explanation which I can't do your the contract staff. We as an institution are looking to run an institution
institution that can be put on auto drive. And how do you run an institution that can be put on auto drive? You set up an institution and you set up systems, not individuals. And how do you set up systems? You set up rules that relate to schedules of duty. So that whether you're there or you're not there, when job comes in, the system works and checks itself. That is lacking present. What is going on is that, unfortunately, we have had the system, but because of lack of trust, and I blame some of the lack of trust on people telling tales. There is no human organization where there are no frictions, but it is our ability to manage frictions and ability to understand individual idiosyncrasies of people that help you to galvanize people to achieve results. The corporate staff problem is, the problem we have with it is affecting morale